Well, hello, welcome again to a reading through of Plato's Apology of Socrates, and I got up to what I'm going to call chapter 17. I'm going to do this in two separate recordings because it's a very long chapter, and so we're picking it up here at section in the numbering system 28d10. Just to quickly recap the earlier bit here because it fits in with what's coming up here. So he's saying here that it would be a terrible thing if I was stationed somewhere and then or I chose a place to station myself. This is understand in battle, and I cared more about my own life than in doing the right thing. So he continues with this. So ego undena an ai ergasmenos. Now this next little bit's I think fairly tricky because this little clause here is really an apodosis for two different sections of a very long sentence, and the structure of it's complicated. So this here says, I would have done something terrible, O men of Athens. We keep that bit in mind because it's going to affect two things. He's going to say, I would have done something terrible if, when I was fighting for the Athenians, I had left my post, being more caring about my own life than wanting to die. And I would have done something terrible if, when the god told me to do something, I didn't do it. So it goes with both of those thoughts. So I would have done something terrible, O men of Athens, if, when, hoi archontes, I think he translated my superiors, etaton from Tasso, had stationed me, that's imperfect, were stationing me literally. Now we've got a men here as well to keep in mind. Those superiors humes haleste. This is from Hyrio. Hyrio is to take, but Hyrio in the middle is to choose. And this is the aorist middle. So whom you yourself chose. So I would have done something terrible, O men of Athens, if, when my superiors were stationing me, those superiors whom you yourself chose, and then it's got to take followed by an infinitive, arcane mu, to be in charge of me. And now he mentions three different battles that he fought in, so both in Potidea and in Amphipolis and at Delion. Again, you can look up the commentaries to get details about these various battles. So I would have done the wrong thing if at that time, where they, that is my superiors, had stationed, understand me. But at that time, at the place where my superiors had stationed me, I remained hospe kai alos tis, just as also anyone else, so we would say like anyone else, and ekindenuon, I was running the risk to die, so I put my life on the line. So the idea of leaving his post doesn't come till right down here. So we've got to understand, if I had been stationed there and I left my post, I would have done something terrible. And then I would have done something terrible understood also. Now here's the de here, and a genitive absolute. So when the god, now he's using Tasso in a slightly different sense here. The god doesn't station him. The god perhaps gives orders to him. So when the god was giving me orders, so as I thought from oiamai, and I elabon from huperlambano, and as I understood. So when the god gave orders for that it was necessary for me to live practicing philosophy, kai ex et hadzonta, from ex et hadzo, and examining myself and others. So again, I understand I would have done wrong, that at that point, fearing either death, al hotiyun pragma, or any other matter, I would have left my post, ten taxin. So it's a complicated sentence here, and he, I think even perhaps Plato realised it was complicated, because he now says deinon tan aa, so he repeats it here. I would indeed have done a terrible thing. Kai hos alethos tot an me dikaios eis agoitis eis dikasterion. So I would have done a terrible thing if I had ignored the God. And hos alethos, it's sort of like quite rightly, or how truly, it's very emphatic, and quite rightly at that time, tis someone would drag me justly into the courtroom, because I was not, I am, it's present tense, but we have to put it in English in past, because I was not believing the gods Ainai to exist, being disobedient to the manteia, to the prophet, to prophecy, kai dedios, from the participle from dedia, and fearing death, and thinking, understand myself to be wise, uk un, when I wasn't, so not being. So not being wise, I thought that I was. Toga toi thanaton dni. Now the top, I think, goes articular infinitive. Plato is quite fond of these, so the top, I think, goes with the dni, which is the same root as here. This is the infinitive here. Dedia is perfect in form but present in meaning, and so this has a perfect infinitive, the ni or kenai, without the kappa here. So for fearing of death, O gentlemen, is nothing other than to think that one is wise, so to think that one to be wise may onto not being wise. Similar structure as up here. So perhaps I might just quickly go back through that bit there. It is quite difficult, all that section there. So he says, it would have been terrible, and at that time, how rightly would someone drag me justly into the courtroom, because I was not, we have to put it in the past tense, I was not believing the gods to exist, being disobedient to the oracle, and fearing death, and thinking to be wise when I wasn't. For fearing, the toy here is indeed, for indeed fearing death, O gentlemen, is nothing other than to seem to be wise, or to think one is wise, when in fact you're not. Doken ga eidenai estin ha uk oiden. This bit is slightly difficult here, so I think the ha for these are things which he does not know, so for he seems to know things which he does not know. So in other words, these things, that is about death, these are things which he thinks he knows, but he does not know. Very tricky, this whole business of the use of oida and knowing and so on, and thinking and seeming and so on. oidi men gar udes tain thanaton. They, on the one, for no one, oide knows or understands death, nor, now the A here perhaps is whether, it chances being, tunkano general often takes a participle, whether it chances being the greatest of all good things for mankind, or for an individual, we might say. So no one knows about death, whether it happens to be the greatest of all things for an individual, so anthropo, but dedia, see there's that dedia again, they fear. Now the host here is probably something like supposing that. So they fear, supposing that they know it well, or they know well, that it is the greatest of evils. So a tricky little bit there, I think. So no one knows death, neither if it happens to be the greatest of all good things for an individual, but they fear it, supposedly knowing well that it is the greatest of evils. Kaitoi pos uk amathea estin. And perhaps this is the most reproachable ignorance, literally. Perhaps this is the most reproachable, almost level of ignorance. And then the hay is picking up the amathea. And we're getting here a sort of genitive of material, as it's sometimes called, in other words, consists of. So, which consists of, and hence we're getting articular infinitive, of thinking to know things which he does not know. Now, all this was a question. So, is this not the most reproachable of ignorance, that the ignorance which consists of thinking to know things which he does not know? Ego de o Andres, but I, O gentleman, tuto kai entartha isos diaphero turn polon anthropon. Tuto is used fairly loosely. I think it's on this matter also here, perhaps. So it's on this matter also here, perhaps, that I differ from, and it takes a genitive, I differ from many men. And if, in fact, Phaein, I say to be wiser, so if I, in fact, I think it's if I appear to be. Toe, now notice there's no accent on toe, this is toe for the indefinite tini. So if I perhaps I appear to be to someone wiser, and then again we get to for tinos, the indefinite, than someone else. So both of these, this is tini and tinos. And you can tell by the lack of the accents here. So if in fact I seem to be, I think the Phaein here, I just want to say, I say, or perhaps so I might, it is to say, so if indeed I might say to someone to be wiser than someone else. I think it's better to do it rather than appear. It is from Fami. So if I to do this bit again, but I, O gentlemen, also here perhaps I differ in this way from many men, and if indeed I say to someone that I am wiser than someone else. Tuto an, this again is fairly elliptic here. It means it's really picking up what he said before. So I differ. So I would say that I differ tuto on this point. So tuto an. So it's very elliptic. I think I have to say I would appear to be different also on this matter, that not knowing sufficiently peritone en heidu regarding the things in the house of Hades. You've undoubtedly seen this expression before. You have to supply oiko here. It's not en never takes genitive, so it's en oiko, in the house of Hades, that is in the afterlife. So I appear to differ in this matter also, that not knowing sufficiently regarding the things in Hades, thus also I think that I do not know. Tot der adikain kai apathain. Now we get two articular infinitives here. The tot adikain, and we have to understand tot apathain. So this is but doing the wrong thing and disobedience to one who is my superior, literally to the better one, to my superior, kai, both theo, both to a god and to a man, so we might say both divine and human. This is the Beltionis, to my superior, we might say whether divine or human. I know that it is kakon kai aiskron, that it is base and shameful. Pro un ton kakon hon oida hoti kaka estin. Again, a slightly difficult bit here. I'm going to do this latter bit first. I think ha me oida a kai agatha onta sun tunkane udepodi pote phobesamai udi fuxamai. So I'm going to start at the end here. So never will I fear, nor will I flee things which I do not know whether they might chance being good. In other words, whether they may in fact turn out to be good. So never do I fear, nor do I flee things which I do not know whether they might turn out to be good. And then I'm going to do the pro, instead of those evil things which I know that they are bad. So he's saying that there are certain things that I know are bad and I'm not going to do them. And there are other things I don't know whether they're going to turn out to be good or not. So just to do that bit again. So never will I fear, nor will I flee those things which I do not know, if also they might chance to turn out to be good. Instead of, for the pro, so instead of those things, those evil things, which I know that they are evil. Hosti ude a menun humas affiate anutai apiste santes. So that neither, if now, you, affiato, from affiame, you release me, having no faith in Anytus, so ignoring what Anytus says, so having no belief, no trust in Anytus, so perhaps distrusting Anytus, and it's an aorist, so having distrusted Anytus, who said either, tain arcane adverbial here right at the beginning. So who said right at the beginning it was not necessary for me to come here. Now I think the sense is here that Anytus originally wanted Socrates to go into exile and thus not go into court. So Anytus and company tried to get Socrates just to leave Athens, but he refused, and that's what he means here, I think. So who said either at the beginning that it was either necessary for me not to go here, or when I did enter the courtroom, uk hoion tenai, that hoios te ami idiom, it would not be possible, and then we get articular infinitive, for me not to die. So he gave me a choice, either leave, or if you go to court, you're going to die. Legon, saying to you that, dia fuc soimain, that if I would go into exile, then, or perhaps if I escaped, could be here, at that time, your sons, epitageuontes, putting into practice the things which Socrates is teaching, that all of them will perish entirely. In other words, they will be destroyed in all ways, in every way. So they will be utterly ruined. And we get a dash here in the logic. So just to quickly do that bit again. So that neither if now you would release me, ignoring or distrusting Anytus, who said either right at the beginning that it was not necessary for me to come here, or if I did come, or after I did come here, I would not be able to escape death. So it would not be possible for me not to die. Saying to you that if I escaped at that time, your sons, putting into practice the things which Socrates teaches, all of them will be utterly ruined. And then we get a gap here. A moi prostata a poite. But if you were to say to me, in relation to these things, or in reply to these things, prostata, O Socrates, nun men anuto u pe somatha on the next page. So, O Socrates, now we will not believe, we will not perhaps trust, we will not believe Anytus, but we, it's a present, but we release you, we would say we will release you. Epi tu tormentor f hoeti. This is slightly pleonastic here. I think it's literally on the condition, however, on the condition that. The usual expression is f hoeti, on the condition, but we're getting two different forms of the same thing, I think, here. So on the condition, however, and I think probably for emphasis, on the condition that Maketi no longer understand you, dear Tribane, to conduct yourself in this seeking. This really is a technical term, it's a tsetesis, your question and answer, really, you're seeking for the truth, nor philosophizing. But aeon, but if, halos, this is from haliskamai. Haliskamai is used as the passive from hyreo. And this is the aorist, so it's an aorist, but it's used as a passive. So if you might be caught, and it's here it's an optative, so if you might be caught still doing this, apathane, you will die. And we have a dash there, so I'm going to pause there and I'll continue chapter 17 in the next recording.